the mix. Sports mix. Yeah. You in the mix. Rockin' with Kenny. When it comes to news, man, he got plenty. You in the sports mix with Kenny. News and knowledge. A lot of dope techniques make kids become scholars. You need to tune in. A lot of hot topics. When it comes to sports, Kenny sound like a prophet. You in the mix, man. You in the mix. Plus he keep you up on all the hottest trends. Plus you never know who he has as a guest. So grab a cold one, man, and just tune in. You in the mix, man. You in the mix. You in the mix. Sports mix. You in the mix. Rockin' with Kenny. When it comes to news, man, he got plenty. You in the mix, man. You in the mix. You in the mix. Sports mix. You in the mix. You rockin' with Kenny. When it comes to news, man, he got plenty.
What up, y'all? It's the Sports Mix. Big Kenny checking in. Been a minute, but we back. Got my man with me, Dean. No, what's up, my brother?
All right.
It's all good, man. So, been a minute, man, since I've been on here. Just got a lot of stuff going on. Life happens. You know, dude got a full-time job and children and all that other good stuff to deal with. So, you know.
They call that responsibilities.
Yeah, you know, I'm taking care of that.
Yeah.
You know, doing what I got to do. But, you know, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, man. Follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and X, used to be called Twitter, at the Sports Mix Podcast. You know, comment, like, share. Hit me up. Let me know what topics you want to hear. Tell me, cuss me out, all that. I'm open for everything. You know, if you don't agree with something I'm saying, hey, that's what it's all about. Talking sports, man, having fun with it. So, you know, tonight, kind of want to talk about the legacy of Mr. Orenthal James Simpson, better known as OJ or the Juice, you know, depending on, you know, or he referred to as some other things too. You know, all depending on you know, your liking of the guy or not. So, you know, I'm gonna touch on a little bit of all of that today. Before we jump into that, though, I want to give a shout out to the UConn men's basketball team. Won the men's college basketball, the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Pretty dominating fashion, I think. You know, throughout the tournament, throughout the season, really. Shout out to Coach Dan Hurley of the famous Hurley family.
Yeah.
You know, Father Bobby Hurley, coach up there at St. Anthony's High School in New Jersey, national powerhouse. He played for his dad, of course. They won a national championship in high school. A few of them, you know, they won a few, but I know he won in 1989. I think he was a sophomore on that team, and the point guard on that team was his brother, Bobby Hurley. You know, who went on to win a couple national championships at Duke. I think Bobby's coaching somewhere as well.
Yeah. So
I think Dad is retired. You know, but the Hurleys are moving on from being great basketball players on into the coaching ranks, and this is Dan Hurley's second national championship. Matter of fact, he won back-to-back national championships, so that's going to put him in some pretty rarefied air when it comes to coaching. You know, so shout out to him and the UConn men's basketball team winning back-to-back national championships. Also, give a shout out to Don Staley in the South Carolina women's basketball team who won national championship as well. They defeated Iowa, who was the fan favorite. You know, the national fan favorite. You know, they had superstar Caitlin Clark, who, you know, hell of a ball player.
Absolutely.
Hell of a ball. I mean, nothing much more you can say about that young lady. It's a hell of a ball player. She's fun to watch. She sells tickets, and she was a fan favorite throughout the tournament, from even dating back to last year.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to get it done in the big game, but she had really nothing to hold her head down about. I mean, everybody want to win, So shout out to Caitlin Clark. She put on a great show. The last 2 years for sure is kind of when I found out who she was. I didn't really follow women's that close, so wasn't really familiar with her until last year. But shout out to her in Iowa. But Dawn Staley winning her third national championship, second in 3 years. She's been in the Final Four the last 3 years. So she's building a pretty solid program down there in South Carolina, and
impressive.
We got this thing in sports now. We like to label everybody GOATs and the greatest and all this type stuff. And Dawn Staley is getting to be in that rarefied air. You know what I'm saying? Where you starting to put her up there with some of the greats that's ever done it. From what she's done in the last 5-6 years down there in South Carolina. They're gonna be right there. She reloading. She's not gonna be a big fall off talent wise from year to year. They'll be right there in the thick of things every year. And she's up there with the likes of Gino at UConn, he by far has the most. He got something like 11 championships or something ridiculous.
Yeah, legendary.
But Pat Summitt was another one. The late Pat Summitt. She was another one, man. So Dawn Staley is getting her name up there with some of the greats, that's ever coached the women's game. Well, just coach, period. I don't really want to separate men from women. It's basketball at the end of the day. And she's a hell of a coach. So I just want to give her a shout out for their accomplishments for this season. Not a whole lot. There's some things that just happened over the last few months since I last been on. I've did a couple little videos here and there talking about some topics. Really just haven't really dug into a lot, but I felt it was necessary, if nothing else. And I know me and you have had conversations about OJ over the years, So when I found out he passed away the other day, I said, got to do something. Just talk about OJ, really what his legacy is or is not. And really his legacy depends on who you ask at the end of the day. But before we get into that, what was the young man's name that the local kid you say signed with the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, that was Deontay Hardy.
Okay.
Went to Curly.
Okay.
He used to be under the name Deontay Harris.
Okay.
And he recently went to Hardy. I know he used to be up there at the skating rink, with Ramel and them up there, and good friends of theirs and everything. So just real great that he was able to maneuver and make his way to the NFL. Yeah, played for Buffalo last year. Ran back a punt, 96 yards for a touchdown.
Okay.
Real fast, real shifty. I think he's a nice addition to the Ravens.
Yep. So shout out to the hometown kid, Deontay Hardy. Looking forward to seeing what he does in that purple and black. What do you think about signing the freight train?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, we think about that. We didn't get to talk about that yet.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the Ravens were trying to make a trade for him as they were, winding down the season. And Well, that'd have made a huge difference if they had gotten him.
Yeah.
While they were, making that playoff run. Been very difficult for Kansas City to deal with what the Ravens had and have a Derrick Henry in that backfield. So I like the signing. I like that. Measuring it with all the other things that have happened so far, I think the signing was big when it happened, and to me, it's starting to diminish a little bit as you start to see more and more people leave, from the Ravens. So, but yeah, he apparently, I don't know, what is he, 30? But they don't say he's lost much of anything. He's still fast. He's still strong. He's still a huge threat. And having him in that backfield, with Lamar Jackson, man, that's potent. That's potent. So, I like it. I might not be as hyped about it as a lot of people are, but I do like it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of the same. 30 years old. The tires could go at any minute.
At any minute.
So I mean, it's a good signing, and you can't. Well, I'm not gonna say what you can't do, because I just don't want to rely on him to carry that heavy of a load.
Right.
And the running back here in Baltimore is not going to have to carry the load that they would say in Tennessee.
No.
Just because of that quarterback. So that's one thing that's probably going to be good for him, is that you got a quarterback that can take off, and is probably a bigger threat than he is at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's dig into it. Again, man, we have talked about this thing over the years quite a bit. We we didn't dug into it. Just kind of talking about the what was going on during the trial, and just the ins and outs of that thing, and how the country was really, really turned upside down during that time. So I was going to do a video talking about OJ a couple of days ago, and I kind of got sidetracked. I just had too much going on. But I was too young to remember OJ in his prime. I didn't get to see the prime years in Buffalo. My recollection of him as a football player, he was with the 49ers. And I actually had a football card. I had an OJ Simpson football card with the 49ers. And that's kind of how I remember him as a football player. My recollections of OJ was running through the airports, with the Hertz, running, jumping over.
OJ, go!
Yeah, that's kind of how I remember OJ. And of course, he moved on and did some TV stuff, did some movies. I remember him in Roots. I remember him being in Roots when I was a little kid. Of course, he was a sideline reporter doing NFL games, I think, for NBC.
Yeah.
So I kind of remember him more as that than as a football player.
Yeah.
Now I know you got to see him play.
I did. Yeah, I did, and I got to see him play a lot. As the Buffalo Bills was in the same conference as the Baltimore Colts. And I was an avid Colt fan. And this guy, OJ Simpson, on that football field, man, oh, yeah, it was real.
Yeah.
It was real. And you got to understand that he played in Buffalo. So OJ, a San Francisco dude, and he up there running in snow and all kinds of stuff, and they talk about people rushing for 2,000 yards. OJ did it in 14 games.
Yeah.
No one has rushed for 2,000 yards in 14 games.
Yeah.
They all took 16 games to get there, and the guy had track speed. He was actually a member of the 440 relay. 4x440 relay, with USC, which they didn't really run it that often. It went more to the metrics, to the 4x400, but he held that world record for quite a while as he was a member of that relay team. So he had pure speed, and just a tremendous athlete. He wore number 32 because he idolized Jim Brown, who also wore 32. So when he was in the league, the standard was Jim Brown. So he was chasing Jim, you know, throughout his career. But absolutely a terrific athlete, the first black athlete who was getting those endorsements on commercials, all of that. I mean, everything you see anybody else doing now, OJ did it first.
Right.
So he was a superstar, period. Superstar.
And so you mentioned something that I mentioned in the video. I ended up having to delete it, never posted it. But the fact, and I posted it on my Facebook page as well in the Sportsmates group. The fact that he ran for 2,014 games. I mean, that's crazy.
Crazy.
I mean, we be talking about guys trying to get 14 and 16 or 17 games now. And it's tough. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body to run the ball that much.
And he was in Buffalo.
And he was in Buffalo, like you said, in the cold and the snow.
Oh,
and
snow.
Man, to get 2,014 games, it ain't nothing to
right.
You know, to sneeze at, man. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, now, I watched some of his highlights. Right, man, they still impressive to watch.
Yeah.
Today, some of the man. I mean, OJ hit that outside.
He hit that corner.
Man, it was a wrap.
It was over.
Man, and then the breakaway speed that he had.
Unreal.
I mean, man, he's a big dude. He wasn't like a little scat cat. This is a big dude. This is OJ. What, 6'2"?
6'2" running back. That's a big running back.
200. Come on, man.
Yes.
So, you know. I know how we are as a society. You know, we like to throw people away. You know what I'm saying? We once somebody gets out of our good graces, man, we like to just toss them to the side, like, man, we done with them. But the records are the records. The talent is the talent. You know what I'm saying? And OJ, you know, is one of the greatest to ever do it. You know, from a football standpoint, he's a Hall of Famer. You know, I know there are people that, you know, wanted to pull him out of the Hall of Fame and all that stuff, and that's their right to have that opinion. You know, but you know, you cannot deny what the man did on that football field. Just undeniable. Undeniable, man. So, just an awesome football player. You know, and like you said, I remember OJ more as the pitch man.
Yeah.
You know, running through the airports with the Hertz rental car in the late 70s. Mm-hmm. So another point I made. So, like, you know, now you see athletes and entertainers, they endorsing everything. You know what I'm saying? Everything. They you know, everywhere. Every time you turn around, it's a commercial, you know, ad somewhere with an athlete or entertainer, especially black ones. But like you said, OJ was the guy. OJ kind of was the one that kind of put all that in motion. Now, for me, the only athletes that I really remember during that time as a child, OJ, Muhammad Ali, and there was another one that Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Those were the three that I kind of remember, and I'm talking about the late 70s, when I kind of really started, you know, paying attention and understanding who these people were. Those were the three. And maybe Dr. J. But none of them were on OJ's. I think OJ and Ali were, you know, 1 and 1A. And
yeah.
Was Ali much of a, I remember he did the decon, the roach spray and all that,
yeah,
but was he much of a pitch guy, or he just was just the most famous athlete?
Yeah, he did that decon, you know. But they weren't giving him no kind of commercials, you know, based on
he just was famous. He just was the most famous athlete.
He's famous, yeah.
Yeah, but OJ was the one.
OJ was the one, man.
Kind of cashing them checks.
And the thing is that, you know, when you see someone who is successful at it like OJ was, rest of the folks follow suit.
Yeah.
So set the standard on how you're supposed to be. You know, like I think, you know, OJ famously or infamously said, you know, I ain't looking at myself as black or white. I'm OJ. You know, and then you see guys like Michael Jordan, you know, come behind and be a big pitch man, and he followed that same mentality. You know, he wasn't ruffling no feathers. You know, and so yeah, it worked for OJ, and it's worked for the other folks, and so give the Jew some credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not going to diminish nothing he accomplished. You know, based on the events that came later.
Yeah.
You know, because the accomplishment is the accomplishment. You can't just erase that. You know, just because he's somebody that you don't like or somebody you don't have favor with. You know what I'm saying? And I be telling people, you know, be careful. Be careful when you want to throw people away. You know, be careful when it's somebody that you don't particularly agree with, that they fall out of your favor. Be very careful with that, because it always come back. You know what I mean? There's somebody that you do have favor with, somebody that you do follow or look up to, or it could be you. You know what I'm saying? And you could fall into or fall out of favor with, you know, people, and you would want some kind of, you know, some kind of grace. You know, some kind of grace. So, you know, OJ is OJ. You know, and so we move on into, you know, he was a great football player, one of the greatest running backs, transitioned into a pitch man, you know, pitching products, did some acting, you know, did a little acting, was a sideline reporter for the NFL, NBC, you know, so he was transitioned very well from a player to that next phase of life, which for a lot of athletes is not easy. You know what I'm saying? Because you are competitive and you're in that spotlight pretty much since high school, or some of them even younger than that. You know, and to transition is and I've heard former pro athletes, even high level college athletes, talk about that next thing. You know, just when you're not in the game anymore, that transition is not easy. You know, it's not easy, and you know, for a guy like OJ, like you said, he was one of the first to really, you know, take it to that next level. Well, he was the first, you know, first black athlete to take it to that level, and really had a second career. And you know, there are people who really only know OJ for being a commentator or being an actor, being in a couple movies. You know, they don't remember him as a football player. Like me, I didn't remember him as a football player. So, I remember him more for the second half of his you know, of his life. So, you know, he transitioned, and I mean, from all intents and purposes, he looked like he was going to have a long career as a broadcaster, as a you know, a pitch man. You know, OJ. I mean, imagine had he never ran into the issues that he had with social media, and you know, with all of the things that's going on now, how his brand could have grown, you know, just through the whole social media era, and even this internet. Because you got to think that situation happened in 1994. There wasn't much internet going around at that time. You know, if it was very brand new.
Yes.
And not a lot of people had it.
Right.
You know I didn't have it at that time. You know, so
neither did I.
Yeah. So you know, to wonder, you know, with as big a personality as he was at that time, how he could have transitioned, moving along just through that time, and how, where he could have ascended to, without the issue. So let's just get right into what the issue, what the situation was. 1994, I believe, what was it, June 1994?
Yeah.
Now I do remember this. I remember it was a Sunday night. I remember I was watching Sports Center, one of the later Sports Centers, and right as they were going off, right as they were signing off, they reported that it was reported that OJ Simpson's wife was murdered, or his ex-wife. I don't know if they were saying his wife or ex-wife. She was murdered. She was found murdered, and wasn't much details at that time. So this was like the night of.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the night of. So I remember seeing that on Sports Center that night, and then even the next day, it was talked about, but it wasn't like OJ is he wasn't the suspect right away. He wasn't the suspect right away, and I think maybe later that evening, when he got back from Chicago, he flew to Chicago that night. There was the video of him showing up I guess he showed up at the house there, and they put him in handcuffs. Now, he wasn't a suspect at this time, but he was in handcuffs. I remember he had like the white polo shirt on.
Yeah.
And he's walking around, kind of pacing, with the handcuffs on. And I remember seeing that video, and you kind of knew from there. All right, this grade get sticky here.
It's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
And so he didn't get arrested that night. I think he let him go. And so throughout the week, the buzz is there. That all right, OJ may be a suspect. The media coverage is getting a little bit more. You're starting to see it on TV more. And then Friday night happened. So let me just give you my version of it. So I was working at a warehouse at that time. We got our work about 7:30 that night. I come home. I might have stopped and grabbed something to eat or something. I wanted to watch the game. The NBA Finals is on. So I get home and I turn the TV on. The game is on. But the game is like up in the corner, up in the corner of the screen there. I'm like, what is going on? And you see the white Bronco, running through LA. And I still didn't understand what was happening. At the time, I just got the TV on. I'm looking for the game, and I see the game up in the corner of the screen. And then you see the right goal. They got the helicopter chasing the Bronco around with all the police behind them.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, what is going on? And then they finally said, OJ Simpson is in the Bronco with a gun to his head, and his main man AC Cowling is driving. And I said, man, what is going on? Right. So
yeah,
that was the story of the night. I don't even remember who won the game that night.
Nah.
I couldn't tell you who won the game that night because they showed the whole game, but you didn't even hear the game. It was about OJ.
It was about OJ.
About OJ, man. So OJ is riding through Los Angeles with a gun to his head. So they say he's suicidal. AC telling everybody, look, y'all got to back off, man. He got a gun to his head.
Yes.
So I remember the people on TV saying, they trying to speculate where they was going. They think maybe OJ's trying to go see his mother. Or maybe he's trying to, get to this place. Or maybe he's trying to do that. So you got all this speculation of where they think OJ was going. They just, they following. It ain't even a chase.
Nah, not really.
AC was doing about 35, 40.
30, 35.
AC driving the speed limit.
Right. He on the freeway going 35 and don't get the fans lined up out there.
Hey, you know what? Man, that's got to be some of the most classic moments. And this is live television broadcast all over the world.
I mean, they was fast enough to make signs and everything.
People got signs out there running OJ.
Right.
You know, everybody was with OJ that night. You know, they run OJ and the juice is loose and all kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Man, it was crazy. It was crazy. And
Crazy.
so, you know, OJ ended up back at the crib at Rockingham, the Rockingham estate. and
Mhm.
and I remember he sat in that car for a minute.
Yeah.
He sat in that car for a minute, and then at
I
some
think his
point,
son,
because it was
I think his son might have ran over there or something to the car,
yeah.
chased him away.
Chase it away, yeah, get away from there.
Right.
And because remember when it started, the sun was out. So by the time they got to the crib, by the time he got out the car, it was dark.
His dog.
You know, it was dark out there. And I think he eventually went on in the house. And I don't remember how long he was in the house, but they went ahead and put the cuffs on him and brought him out. And then you had the scene of them pulling out of the driveway with OJ in the back seat, looking all distraught and distressed, you know, defeated.
Yeah.
And it was on after that. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It was on, man. This is the story of the year, the story of the decade, the story of the
Absolutely.
century.
Absolutely.
You know, it is on right now. So what's your recollections of that night? That night or
Yeah.
that week?
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. You know, it was a crazy situation. You know, you hear that OJ's ex-wife is found, you know, murdered,
Mhm.
and not that she was just murdered. I mean, she was sliced up pretty good. I mean, I
Mhm.
hear that, you know, she was cut on the neck to where her head was almost decapitated
Mm.
with that. So it was huge. It was a terrible murder. Same thing with the young dude that got murdered there. I don't know why his name is escaping me now.
Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman, yeah, and I mean, when the news first came out, I never thought about OJ as being a suspect or anything.
Mhm.
And but like you say, when he did come home, you know, my understanding is that they you know, while he flew to Chicago for a golf event, you know, he had flew out that night, the same night that she got murdered. He
Mhm.
flew out at like 11 o'clock to go to Chicago, and by the time he got to Chicago, Mark Furman had hopped his fence and was in his backyard. You know, the murder supposedly happened around 9:30 or something that they were saying, and all that stuff was happening. So they did call him while he was there, and he caught the next flight back
Came back,
home
yeah.
and got home in the morning.
It,
So and
it's
they
starting
put them
already.
cuffs on him.
It's starting already.
The messages. I can't.
Yeah,
I
man.
see him.
That's cheese. Cheese.
Okay.
What's up, cheese? He said, oh,
Going on.
OJ did it.
That's what he said. So, so you know, I mean, obviously, I mean, they kind of, if they put the cuffs on them,
Mhm.
that was a strong indication on what they were thinking.
Yeah.
And so you know, at that point, you know, they took the cuffs off
Mhm.
and they asked OJ, you know, did you want to, you know, come down and talk? You know, you can grab your lawyer. OJ said, well, I don't need a lawyer. You know, I'm not guilty of anything. I'll go down and talk without a lawyer. And so he went down and was interviewed
Mhm.
by the police. And after they finished interviewing him, they asked him to give a blood sample. Now, that was mistake number one.
Mhm.
First of all, if you're going down there, you go with your lawyer and you don't give them no blood sample.
Mm-mm.
And I think if he had a lawyer, they would have told him,
Yeah, don't do
not,
that.
no, do not give a blood sample right now. We'll deal with that a little bit later. But OJ, you know, he in his mind, the way I'm looking at it is he's saying he's an innocent man. He had nothing to do with it, and he had nothing to hide.
Right.
So he gave the blood sample,
Right.
and the show started.
And it started. And so I mean, you know, and this is 1994. So, you know, we don't I mean, when you looking at you know, what we got now. You know, we doing the show from our houses. You know, we YouTube, Facebook, and all this stuff. None of this stuff wasn't even around at that time.
Yeah.
But you know, one thing I know for sure that the OJ, that whole situation did was it really drummed up interest in, you know, people watching court shows, uh, you know, just celebrity interactions. All of that stuff kind of went ratcheted up
Yeah.
after this OJ trial. You know what I'm saying? And I mean the coverage of that thing. I mean, we ain't even got into the trial. I mean, we talking about week one of this thing.
Yeah.
You knew it was gonna be something different. I'm talking about 24 hours a day. It was OJ, 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 OJ,
Okay.
OJ all day.
Unbelievable.
Now, God rest my grandmother's soul, you know, but she was locked into this thing from day one.
Yeah.
And the fact that the OJ trial and the coverage interrupted the Young and the Restless, the fact that didn't bother her,
You knew
I said,
she was into it.
Serious. This is serious.
This is serious.
This thing is serious, Jack.
Yeah.
Man, my grandmother was locked in. I'm talking about every day, man. I come home from school, whatever. I was going to college at that time, and I come home, man. She sitting there, you know, hand on hand lock. And my grandmother used to shake a little bit when she watched TV, you know.
Yeah.
Man, she locked in. Don't start talking to her. Don't start asking a whole bunch of questions. You know, she hush.
Yeah, that was some heavy stuff,
Hey,
man.
That OJ, and so I got locked in basically because she was locked in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, she was into it, and so I'm watching this thing every day, as much as I could, you know. But even when I was off work, I would be up late watching the recaps.
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. So I got locked in, man, very early. And you know, Cheese said, you know, Mark Furman messed that case up for the prosecution. Yeah, he was one of the reasons for sure. Yeah, he was one of the reasons for sure.
Yeah, it was a the case itself was super huge, and you know all the dynamics were there. You talking about a famous black athlete, a football player, an aggressive football player, supposedly beaten down on a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, attractive white woman, and murdering her. So this thing definitely tugged at the racial thing. You know, that was huge because there's always been those kind of fears going all the way back to slavery, that, you know, that the black man want this white woman and he's a beast and he gonna come get her. You know, rape is a big thing. You always got to watch out. And here it is playing out in front of America in 1994, which suggested strongly that those same thoughts that go back to slave time was still prevalent, very prevalent in 1994. And you got a lot of people who based their thoughts, their belief on that. You had a lot of people who, you know, racially, with the racial mindset, automatically threw that guilt thing on him. And so this thing had the whole thing. It had the country riveted, and that whole racial thing was a big part of having everybody locked in. And I've heard one of the lawyers say that if that was OJ and that was his first wife who had been killed, they say it wouldn't even made that much of a blip on the screen, you know, with her being black.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting plot or twist,
you
know, to put on it.
Yeah.
You know, because again, you know, those type things happen and don't get nearly the coverage, you know, that the OJ thing got. So let's talk about some of the players, you know, because again, man, this thing became larger than life. You know, the trial lasted
9 months.
about 9 months.
Yeah.
You know, so you're talking about, and everybody became, celebrities. From Judge Ito, to Marsha Clark, Christopher Darden, and some of the other prosecutors. I can't remember some of their names, but then the Dream Team. The Dream Team. I mean, we talking about Shapiro,
Yeah.
uh,
F. Lee Bailey.
F. Lee Bailey,
He was already famous.
Kardashian, Kim Kardashian, them daddy.
Yeah.
I mean, who else?
Of course, Johnny
Of course,
Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. We can't. I mean, Johnny was
Johnny.
Johnny was already pretty well known, but that took him through the roof.
Yeah.
That took Johnny through the roof, man. It just the players in that thing, man. It just became such a everything. I mean, it was almost like watching a movie play out in front of us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the coverage of it, some of the drama that we saw in the courtroom play out on live television.
Yeah.
And this stuff we've never seen before. This is kind of stuff you see in TV. You know what I'm saying? You see these scenes they have, Perry Mason and all these lawyers, Matlock, and you know what I'm saying? And they had that aha moment in court. And so these people, man, was trying to have these moments, and you could tell some of them was really, playing up to the camera and looking for that moment to shine.
Yes.
And it's kind of hard not to get caught up in the whole celebrity of it. I know they made the mention of the changes of Marsha Clark. How they had changed her appearance from when it started to as it went on. She became a little more glamorous. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But it's because of them cameras is on you. It's because that spotlight is on you, and you got to fit the mold. You know what I'm saying? You got to fit the mold, and you got to look the part. And this is not Kenny Wilkes on trial for double murder. This is Orenthal James. This is OJ. This is the juice.
The juice.
This is the juice on trial. So
yes,
this thing is bigger than anything any of them probably ever imagined.
You could say that, in later time frames to find something equal, you could say that Michael Jordan was up for murder.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of almost how big it was. Although Michael, is not really active and everything after his retirement, but OJ was that big. Yeah. OJ was that big during his career.
Yep.
He had movies. He had Monday Night Football commentating. He commentated the Olympics. This dude was big, not to mention his Hertz that was paying him really well. So this thing was so big, man. And again, that racial piece in there really took it to the next level. Yeah. And then another thing that I think a lot of people kind of slept on that really took it to the next level is the fact that Ron Goldman was Jewish.
Mm.
And that took that thing, man, to a level that, in fact, when you talk about what the American people were thinking about, they were pretty much locked in on this black man killing this white blonde woman. That was the big thing for America. But on a higher level, you talking about a young Jewish guy being murdered by a black man. And that thing was bigger than the black man, white woman. Now, the black man, white woman thing was bigger for the general population.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about taking that thing up to the next level of this guy being Jewish and being murdered. That took this thing to a level that most people didn't even really recognize what was happening.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And again, man, it took legs I mean, I don't think we've seen anything like it since. Far as the coverage, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying. As far as the coverage, and I think now because it's so many avenues to have, to broadcast these stories now. It's not as sensational, because there have been big stories since OJ,
yeah,
but the way that thing captivated everybody had an opinion on it, whether you were locked in or not. Everybody had an opinion on it. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, it definitely, drove a wedge in race, racial relations at that time.
clearly.
Um, I work with some folks, and I remember being at work, man, having some heated discussions, man. You know what I mean? And we talking about guilt or innocence, or well, when they presented this evidence, man, it was open and shut. There's no way he was not. You know what I'm saying? And man, we going back and forth. I mean, to the point where I remember the supervisor was like, "Listen, we cannot be talking about this no more." You know what I'm saying? Because we're not getting no work done. You know what I'm saying? We are not getting any work done because y'all sitting in here debating OJ Simpson. You know, and so they had to make sure, hey, listen, make sure we getting some work done. Y'all talk about OJ on your break. But we gotta get this work done. But it was that captivating, man. I mean,
Yeah,
from the witnesses that they put on to the evidence. And I remember, like I said, me and you had talked about this thing over the years. So, and I know you really was locked in
I
much
was
more than anybody that I know.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and I remember you saying something to me that made a lot of sense. And we talking 20 years after the shit happened.
yeah,
Me and you
yeah,
talking about this shit 20 years later.
right.
And you were saying, you know, you got to think, we people talked about shit that they heard on television that wasn't introduced as evidence in the trial. So it was a lot of discussion about stuff that wasn't even like evidence. It wasn't
Yeah,
on the record. And so we got these theories and we got all this discussion floating around, but that stuff is not on the record.
not
You
on
know
the
what I'm
record.
saying? And one thing that we know that prosecutors and police have as an advantage is they use the media to try these cases. You know what I'm saying? And they throw out these theories. They throw out 101 theories, but just to sway public opinion. You know what I'm saying? And so uh, the OJ trial, imagine trying to pick a jury for the OJ Simpson trial when everybody in the world has heard about it and there's coverage of this thing every day, all day.
Yeah,
So who can go in the courtroom and legitimately say they haven't heard anything about the case? They don't know nothing about the case. Everybody knew about the case.
everybody knew about it. Yeah,
Everybody knew about it. So to pick a panel that was going to be, unbiased one way or the other was literally impossible. Literally impossible. It was going to be impossible to do
yeah.
because of the coverage. Because think about
Everybody knew.
all the opinions that was out there,
Yes,
right? I mean, everybody had show. I mean, people literally got TV shows based off their coverage of OJ.
absolutely.
People
People got famous.
people got famous off of the coverage of OJ Simpson. Man, a lot of people made money off of this man's back. Still today,
Yeah.
making money.
Oh yeah.
Off of their coverage or they're working on that case.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so, just the layers of this whole thing, right? But so I was saying the how they use the media, and they still do it. They still use the media to kind of paint pictures of people to kind of sway public opinion, to kind of sway opinion that of somebody's guilt or innocence. I think, but what the OJ trial did as well is it showed you how unbalanced the system we have is. From a standpoint of, he was criticized because he had the means to defend himself. you know, in a way that if it was me or you standing trial for double murder, man, we'd have been up the damn creek.
Would have been done.
Done.
It would have been done.
Regardless of the evidence.
Yeah.
Regardless of the evidence. And I can say that and say it with my chest out because several times every year we see people being exonerated for crimes that they've spent 30, 40 years in prison for, something that they had nothing to do with. So we know that if the system was fair, right, you shouldn't have to be a millionaire to be able to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? Where the state has all the resources and all the means that they need, because who pays the bill for that? The taxpayer.
Taxpayers.
You know what I'm saying? We paid the bill for the prosecutors to have these cases built. I think it should be even. If the prosecutor can spend $100,000 to fight a case, the defense should have $100,000 to fight the case. I think it should be even. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't tell me that you got a fair trial if you don't have the resources to effectively fight for yourself. That's nonsense. You know what I'm saying? That's nonsense. But this is the system we have. And lo and behold, you know, now Donald Trump say the system is broken. You know, the system it's not fair what's happening to me. You know, the system is broke. Imagine that. And this is somebody that supposedly has the means to fight for himself. Supposedly. Now, you know, well, what kind of money he got, that's up for debate. But I mean, there's a guy who is a self-proclaimed billionaire, and now all of a sudden he's talking about the system is broke. You know what I'm saying? Because they coming after him. You know what I mean? So you know, so I remember that specifically with OJ. You know that.
Well, one thing that Donald Trump also said, he talked about fake news, and fake news was in play during the OJ trial, big time, before Donald Trump even ever said the thing. Now, one thing that the prosecution, I think they made a big error, in that they allowed for the case to take place in LA, and not move the case out to where they could have got a different type of jury base. See, in LA, you had a predominantly black jury, which ultimately, I believe it was helped OJ in the long run. And of course, everybody would see when they announced the verdict, you would see the black students at Howard University jumping and screaming, jumping up and down. And then you would see the white people showing frustration. I mean, you had black and you had white, and we're looking at the same trial. The result took that American population and split them. I mean, as far to the one side was the black people jumping up and down, break dancing and all that shit. And then you got the white people over there just losing it. But the interesting thing about those two polar different reactions is that if you had went to those people and talked to those people, black and white, and asked them, why are you so happy and why are you so frustrated? They both would tell you the same thing, is that they would say he got away with murder. The white folks would say, and the black people thought he got away with murder too. So they both thought that he was guilty, but the reaction was different based on the history of police dealing with black folk and all that stuff. So it was that thing, that they both thought the man was guilty. Now, Donald Trump talked about fake news. Now, the media is controlled by a lot of Jewish folks who are in control of that media, Fox TV and all these stations and all this stuff. So the coverage of it was skewed. And if you weren't able, which most people weren't, that thing was like, come on at 9 o'clock in the morning and run till 3 in the afternoon, the live coverage of the trial. So most of us and most people was just hearing news snippets.
Right.
You hear news snippets about OJ's blood was found at the scene. OJ's blood in the Bronco. OJ had a disguise when he was in the Bronco, and he had $10,000 in his passport, and you was hearing all of these stories that came through. But if you weren't listening, if you didn't listen to the trial, you weren't getting the real evidence. People out here are talking about he's guilty, he's that, and they basing it on media coverage, or they basing it on some documentary that they saw, or some OJ movie that they saw. But none of that is the evidence that was given in the trial.
Right.
Now, when you talk about evidence in the trial, they tell you his blood was found on the scene, but they don't tell you that the blood they found that was OJ's had EDTA in it, which was a preservative.
Right.
Meaning that the blood that they found came out of that vial when he gave his blood.
Right.
They don't tell you that part, but they tell you that the blood was there.
Right.
You know, and you know, and they'll tell you that yes, he had a cut on his finger, and he had a cut on his finger when they interviewed him and they took pictures of it. But they don't tell you that on his way with the limousine to the airport, on the airplane, flying to Chicago, he signed autographs. He sat beside people on the plane. The pilot of the plane came back when he knew OJ was on the plane and came and got an autograph. These people testified, no, wasn't nothing wrong with his hands. He had no cut on his finger. He cut his finger in Chicago when they called and told him Nicole had been murdered, and he broke a glass in the sink. And they went and detectives were all out in Chicago in the sink looking to see if that was true. Yeah. So I'm saying that Donald Trump talk about fake news. I saw that fake news in living color.
Yes, sir.
Because they were definitely doing some weird things, man. Now, I wasn't there at that place when the murders took place, so I can't say that he did it or he didn't do it. But listening to the evidence, the jury came up with the correct verdict. Easily came up with the correct verdict, because all you had to do was have reasonable doubt. Now, when they drew OJ's blood, the detective didn't file the blood. He took the blood, put it in his pocket, and went to the crime scene. He went to both crime scenes. He had the blood in his pocket for like 4 hours. Yeah. So if you want to know how OJ blood could have got there, this detective took the blood there. That's some hell of a reasonable doubt. Now, when you find the blood and it's got EDTA in it, the preservative, that's some serious ass reasonable doubt. Yeah. And so, I mean, so fake news was strong back then. Yes, and I guarantee you that most people are basing their thoughts on what they was hearing through the media and what they might have saw on some documentary, on an OJ movie. They did all of this stuff because I listened to a huge part of that trial, and the jury got the verdict right. In fact, the folks on the jury who were sequestered, they weren't allowed to read newspapers. They weren't allowed to look at TVs, or nothing like that. So when they came out and people was going crazy, they were shocked. Yeah. They was wondering why the people was going crazy. Did they see the evidence? Weren't they reporting the evidence? No, they weren't reporting the evidence. They were not reporting the evidence. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. I done just said a couple of things right there. Yeah. And to me, that's enough reasonable doubt right there to make the man not guilty.
Yeah. And it started off, like you said, with all the courage. Everybody was trying to show guilt. See, they keep telling us this innocent until proven guilty. That's the biggest crock going. You know what I'm saying? We're going to show you guilt, and he got to prove some innocence at some point. You know what I'm saying? but we're gonna show you every reason why he should be guilty. So what became kind of the focal point early was, you know, the domestic violence situation with the ex-wife, Nicole. Now, you know the photo with her with the black eye.
Yeah.
And then the 911 call became,
you
know, so this is why, you know, he's guilty, because he has a history of you know, domestic violence against his wife. You know, you had the sister who was very outspoken and had somewhat of a celebrity herself, you know, at that time. During that time, she, you know, I can't remember her name. What was Nicole Brown's sister's name?
Denise Brown.
Denise Brown. So, you know, she was big. You know, she was on everything.
Yeah.
She was on a lot. Her and Geraldo were very tight.
Yeah.
She was on his show all the time, and you know, she talking about it from her perspective. And again, you know, I wasn't there. You know, I can't say whether what she said was factual or not. But, you know, they're trying to show a pattern of abuse but we talking about people that weren't even married at the time of the murders. You know, they weren't even together. And from my recollection, they were together that day at the recital or something. Like earlier that day, they were at a recital for the daughter, I believe.
For the daughter, yes.
They were all together.
Yes.
It was some video of that, right?
Yeah.
Like they were at a restaurant or something. It was a video or something. So I mean,
that's a very good point, though. Again, you know, Denise Brown, Nicole's sister, got on the witness stand and talked about that recital and said that she saw OJ there that day. And I mean, he had death in his eyes. He was ready to kill somebody. She said, I've never seen him like that before. And, oh my God, you just looked at him. It was like a blank stare. Like I've never seen him like that. He was like a zombie. And you could see the anger in his. I mean, she went in on that, man. She went in. And then they brought up the guy that played for the Dodgers, Steve Garvey. His wife, child went to the same school. She got up there and testified. And she said the same thing. Oh my God, he was OJ. I've never seen him like this. He was sitting in the back. He was away from everybody. He looked like a murderer. And then the video popped up. With him over there hugging and kissing Denise. He was over there hugging and kissing her. And he was over there with the family. He was picking the kids up. He was smiling. He was talking to the family and having a good time. But that's the kind of craziness that was happening in this trial. I mean, people, man, their minds were flipping. So that made Denise Brown look crazy. It made Steve Garvey's wife look crazy. And the video, who you gonna believe? What they said or what that video showed?
Right.
So that's a more reasonable doubt of some witnesses getting up there talking some foolishness.
And what do a murderer look like?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What do a murderer look like?
What kind of look was that? What kind of look was that?
I mean, again, you know, it's funny, you know, looking at it now, you know, and it's 30 years this year. 30 years ago this year is when that stuff happened, man. I mean, 30 years have passed.
Yes.
30 years have passed since all of that. The trial of the century. You know, OJ Simpson, man, was household for all the wrong reasons for about 2-3 years. You know, just the trial, man, and you know, Johnny Cochran and the theatrics, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, one of the most memorable moments for me was Johnny putting that ski cap on.
Yes, Lord.
And Johnny, man, said, hey, who am I?
Who am I? You've been looking at me for the last 9 months. Who am I?
Who am I? And he had the hat off. Wasn't even on right.
He had it all broken down a little bit.
I looked at that jury and said, who am I? I am Johnny Cochran.
Yes.
God damn it, it ain't no disguise. It
Right.
don't fit. He said, and if it don't fit, you must have quit. I said, God damn it, Johnny over there rapping to him, Jack.
Boy, he laid it on him, man. Johnny laid it on him, man. He laid it on him, and he became an instant superstar, and he got that tag. You talking about everybody like throwing around labels of the GOAT? Well, he got that label,
man.
That performance, man. And you know, the thing is, man, with this trial, see, I listen to these people talk, and again, they all talking about these superficial things. Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
You heard him the other day, right?
No, I didn't catch him.
You didn't get him? Stephen A. got on there. He was off that day, but when he heard OJ, he had to call in and make a statement. And he talking about if he was on that jury, he would have put OJ under the damn cell and all of this. He did it. I believe that he did it, and this and that, and man, look. I want to just clear this thing up right now with all of this shit that's going on with this trial. When you think about when Nicole Brown was being assaulted, usually if a woman is being assaulted and she trying to fight back, and I understand she was in shape and went to the gym and used to run and all of that, and I heard she was feisty. So you know what the woman gonna try to do when somebody trying to harm her. She's gonna reach out and try to scratch the person. You know, now OJ ain't had no scratches on his body, but Nicole Brown Simpson had skin and blood under her nails. People don't know about this because they didn't report it. Fake news. And when they tested the skin and the blood under her nails, it was not OJ's. It was not Ron Goldman's, and it was not hers. So come on now. We talking about reasonable doubt. Yeah. We talking about reasonable doubt. Now, OJ had a cut on his left finger. This is what having money can do for you. He had a cut on his left finger when he came back and they interviewed him. So them devils recognizing that he had that cut finger. So at the Bundy residence where the crime took place, one of the evidence that they put up, there were 4 blood drops, OJ's blood drops, as you will walk out the gate. Like the murders had taken place and he's walking out, and there's 4 on the left. So, you know, the consensus is that his finger dripped the blood as he was walking out or running out and leaving the crime scene. But his lawyers looked at the blood drops and saw that they were like a raindrop coming straight down. And the splash of it was as if it dropped straight down. So all 4 of them. So the way the blood was there, it's like he took some steps, stopped, held his finger, and let the blood drip.
Right.
Walked a few more steps, stopped, held his finger, let the blood fall straight down for all 4 of those drops.
Yeah.
But see, the lawyers ate that shit up. Yeah. Man, they ate it up. Yeah. You know, and knowing that blood was planted. It was dropped there. So, I mean, these are the things that took place in the trial that people never even heard about, that she got that under her fingernails and that these blood drops. There were instances where at the crime scene where they go and they photograph the crime scene right there the next day, they photograph everything. There is pictures that they took of the crime scene. And then there are later pictures dated a couple of months later that show more blood on the gate that was there after the crime took place. And they were trying to figure out, how did this blood get here in this July picture or this August picture that wasn't there in June, and you're looking at the same picture.
Right.
And so that blood was planted. There's a picture of his room. They videoed his room at the day after the crime. And by the way, he had white carpet all throughout his house. And all up his steps. So they video his room and his carpets is clean and there's nothing there. You don't see anything. And then in a later picture and video footage with a later time frame on it, now all of a sudden a sock appears on his floor with blood on it.
Blood on it, yeah, I remember that.
With blood on his sock. And the way the blood was on his sock, first of all, that's some serious doubt right there that this sock all of a sudden appeared and it wasn't there. And then the way the blood was there, and this is OJ's defense, saying that the way the blood was on the sock and the way it went through the sock, you could tell that no leg was in it.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't no leg in it based on the way the blood went through. So they broke that down too and threw that back up in their face. So I'm just saying, man, that the jury got the verdict correct.
Yeah.
It was clearly reasonable doubt all throughout the trial. All throughout the trial.
So you know, Johnny was big. F. Lee Bailey was big. I remember his confrontation with Mark Furman was epic. Epic. You know, and it's almost like, and his confrontation with Mark Furman happened before the tapes came out.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't know about the tapes. He didn't even know about the tapes.
You know about them tapes.
And he set Mark Furman up, boy. I mean, and it was nothing he could say once them tapes came out.
Nothing.
You know, once they corroborated that it was him, it is you on these tapes, he couldn't do nothing but go up there and plead the fifth. You know what I'm saying? I what do you say? I do not want to. I forget the phrase, but boy, it was like, and you can see the ad coming out of Marshall Clark and them, man.
Yes.
He got up on that thing, man, and it's like, man, the case is going to hell.
They look deflated. They look deflated.
But you know, again, man, you know, you put this guy up there. You know, you put him up there as like the superstar witness. They had him looking like a hero.
Yes.
Remember they talk about he scaled the fence.
Yes.
Because he thought OJ might have been in trouble. And you know, we wanted to go in there and make sure OJ was okay. And he scaled the fence and he back there planting gloves and shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Absolutely, man. And I mean, and look at this case, man. When you think about this case, I mean, there are no witnesses. There was no weapon retrieved. So everything is going to be circumstantial evidence. Everything is circumstantial. No, ain't no witness. Ain't nothing. So you got their main witness is a Nazi. I mean, he hates blacks. Obviously. He hates Jews. He probably was happy. And he hated white people who dated or dealt with black people. I mean, you know, they were nigger lovers. You know, it was, I mean, he was a Nazi type of guy with this viral hatred in him. So he was their main witness. His reputation was well known. That's why F. Lee Bailey went at him like that. Yeah. Because they knew of his reputation. They knew who he was. He had all kinds of stuff against him, all kinds of cases of police brutality and all these things against him. And so they knew that, and they went at him, and F. Lee Bailey drilled him and went at him directly. And they kept saying at the beginning about this mountain of evidence that they had against OJ. As I watched that trial, I kept saying, where's the mountain? Yeah. Where is the mountain of evidence? I don't see it. It wasn't there. They did not prove all of the witnesses that the prosecution brought up to speak. The only people who had some kind of an impact was the earlier people that they brought they bring the 911 person, the dispatcher on there, and she's talking about this, and they playing those tapes, and you know who it is. It's OJ. I don't want to get off I don't want to stay on the phone. He's going to kill me. So all those things were there. And that, of course, had people like, oh my God, he's an animal. He's a beast, but how many people who get into husbands and wives who get into fights and there's a man going upside a woman's head and all this kind of stuff. How many of them actually murder their wife?
Right.
I mean, it's just a small, maybe a tiny percentage of these arguments that take place where the husband actually killed a wife. It's really small. Yeah. So just because he was in arguments and he got into some trouble and she had to dial 911 and all that kind of stuff, that don't mean that he gonna kill her. In fact, they had been apart for some time, and he was going with Paula Barbieri, another actress.
Yeah,
they were in a relationship at the time. So, this trial, man, this mountain of evidence, as I went through it, was a joke to me, and it was not a mountain. They had nothing. I didn't hear anything that really pointed to OJ as being the guy.
Yeah, and it for me, again, I looked at it from the same, looking at all of the coverage, and it really became about, your opinion, with the coverage, because the coverage was slanted depending on who was reporting on it.
Absolutely.
And you was going to get their version of it, and so you couldn't look at Geraldo at any time and expect to get anything balanced. You know what I mean? It was going to be,
right.
We're going to show you that he did this thing every chance we got.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, when you are that invested in the outcome, only going one way, it's got to be a hell of a blow, when it doesn't go the way that you said it was going to go for 9 months or for more than a year for a lot of them. Because before the trial even started, we was hearing this is open and shut.
Yeah.
Man, this man murdered his wife. He's a cold-blooded killer, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You heard all of that stuff. And for the trial to go the way that it went, how deflating was it for those people that were so invested in him losing, him going away to prison for the rest of his life for this crime, this was tough to watch, day to day, the coverage, what I'm saying? And it's so slanted and it's so, it's only going to go this way. It's only going to go this way. So when you get to the verdict and the verdict doesn't go the way that they've been telling you it's going to go because of this mountain of evidence, because this case, this great case that was put on, the great police work that was done.
Yeah.
Never mind Mark Furman. Let's forget about him and all that stuff.
Right.
Just look at the evidence. Well, when you look at the evidence, like you said, it was no other way to go. It was no other way to go. And so, we talk about, so we get to the point of you got a verdict. You know what I'm saying? And I remember that day clearly. I remember that day clearly, man. And I remember watching the verdict and seeing all the emotion. But I remember, for a split second, felt like I won. You know what I'm saying? It felt like I won.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think, man, for the way that the country was, it still is for a large part. The country is still divided among the racial lines. I mean, I think that's just who we are as a country. That's never gonna go away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they keep saying, well, all of those people that felt like that have died, but man, they passed that shit on to the next generation. It's not as open. It's not as open as it was once upon a time, but it's still there. You know what I'm saying? But this like you say, the emotion of the black students at Howard University versus
Mm-hmm.
the white students at whatever school they was at, or when they was out in public, when they out at like Times Square somewhere with the cameras and the people watching the verdict come on the screen and black people jumping around and white people out there crying, man, losing it,
Yes.
you know. And
Yes.
then, from a personal standpoint, I remember going to work that day after the verdict, and I mean, I worked in a majority white atmosphere at that time. It was they. I don't think people knew how to approach me.
Yeah.
Didn't know what kind of time I was going to be in. Was I going to be in there celebrating? Yeah, OJ. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was weird for a couple of days
Mm-hmm.
after that. You know what I'm saying? The energy was weird, man. It was just different, and just being, I was what 20, 23, 24 at that time. I mean, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
relatively young guy, but to see, that was kind of one of them things. You know how you always have the where were you when this happened?
Sure.
The OJ was probably my first really, really big
Where were you at?
where were you at moment. Remember, well,
Yeah.
the space shuttle blowing up in '86. I was in class. I was
Yeah.
in ninth grade when that happened. I remember that. I remember kind of one of the teachers coming in my classroom telling the other teacher that the space shuttle had blown up. He was crying. I never forgot that. But
I,
OJ,
I think for us, probably the biggest thing was Len Bias.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
For us, that
You're
that
right.
was the biggest
You're right.
moment
You're
that
right.
I can recall.
You're right.
And
You're right.
then the OJ thing, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Len
OJ was right
Bias
there.
thing was huge.
Yeah, Lim was definitely big for us.
Yeah.
Especially being here in Maryland.
In this area, yes.
Maryland fans, we for sure. But yeah, so OJ thing was huge. Just to see the verdict, to see the reactions of people. So what was your situation at that time? Like, what was you working in the
Yeah.
atmosphere where
Yeah. I was working, and it just so happened that at that time my cubicle that I sat in
mm-hmm.
at State Highway Administration had a 32-inch TV that was a little bit behind me, but it hung from the ceiling. It had the thing in there and it hung from the ceiling. One of the old box TVs,
Mm-hmm.
And so at the building, our office was one of the few offices that had a television, and that verdict was coming on during work hours.
Mm.
So almost the whole building was right there at my cubicle
Yeah.
watching this verdict be announced.
Yeah.
So I got up out my seat and I was standing up and I was standing behind most of the people, and I listened to the verdict and I watched the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that reaction, I would say, when you think about all the people that were standing there, you're probably looking at 95% white, 5% black,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't react on the outside. I was jumping on the inside, and but a big part of the white folks that was listening to it, they could not hold their emotions down. I mean, it was just all coming out. No way he's getting away with murder. I mean, it was just all kinds of stuff going on, and it was something, man. I mean, it was something to really see.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, the days following it, man, it was just really something. This OJ thing was really huge, man. And so as things go along, the folks who write and sign the checks to these entertainers, and they write and sign the checks to the ball players, and they write and sign the checks to all these folks. Those people, see, this OJ trial, man, really exposed a lot of things. There's a system in place, a filtering system, which will allow for people to rise up in this world. There's a filtering system there. So it's a system that if you don't meet the criteria, then you ain't rising up. I don't care how gifted you might be or whatever it is that you're skilled at. If you don't fit the criteria, you're not going to be allowed to rise up. Now, when it comes to Black people, the criteria is different than for anybody else. There's criteria for white folks, and anything in between. And there's definitely criteria for Black folks. So OJ Simpson met the criteria to be able to go through all the filtering and to become the Hurt spokesman and to become the Monday Night Football and the movies and all of this. He met the criteria. So folks followed him and tried to do the same thing as OJ. So Michael Jordan was a carbon copy of OJ almost to meet that filtering system. So you have folks like Oprah Winfrey. She gets through that filtering system. You get, and you can go down the line. All these people make it through the filtering system. That's why a P. Diddy can rise up, and a Stephen A. Smith can rise up, because the folks who are signing that check approved of them and they met the criteria. So when you hear Stephen A. Smith get on his show, and he's done it before in the past. And first of all, let me say, Stephen A. Smith, when you talk about GOATs, for what he do, he is certainly in the conversation as being the greatest of all time of what he does. That man's show has been #1 for years. And he is intelligent, and he is wise, and he is smart. He ain't gonna be on no dummy, ain't gonna be on top of that game like he is. And for the Black community, whether you like him or don't like him or agree with him or disagree with him, he's a god in what he does. The man is a god. So for Stephen A. Smith to get on TV and talk about, I think the man is guilty, I would put him under the damn cell, he did this. Stephen A. Smith is responding like that because he recognizes who signs the check. He understands that fully, better than most people. He understands that. So that's why he responds like that. Stephen A. Smith is not the type person, he's not a surface dweller. That man is so deep and so thorough with his sports knowledge and him being able to dig deep on things. Now, something like this OJ trial, I guarantee you that Stephen A. Smith dug into that. I guarantee you the things that I mentioned on this show, that Stephen A. Smith was aware of it. I guarantee you, he is not a surface dweller. That brother is deep, but he has to respond the way boss want him to respond, the check signer, the one who's cutting the check. So he responds that way, which is, I understand it. And I'm not judging him, but I understand why he did that. But you best believe that this man understands that OJ, that the jury got it right. He understands that. Oprah Winfrey, who's another one. Matter of fact, they had a show. And on her show, the verdict was announced. And when the verdict was announced, the Black people on the show acted one way and the white people on the show acted one way. You know how Oprah acted? She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't celebrating. In fact, Oprah Winfrey brought Mark Furman onto her show and tried to humanize the man. Tried to humanize the man because she understands who signs the check. Her television show or her network was called OWN, OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, where we know who was owned.
Yes, sir.
We know who was owned. So I understand why they say what they say, but the truth of the matter is they know. They know that evidence, what that evidence said, and they know that jury got it right. And Yeah, so that's I definitely want to put that out there, and that's the bigness of this thing, and and again that's the Ron Goldman factor.
Right.
Ronald Goldman factor. That's
Right.
the Ronald Goldman factor that I
Right.
mentioned earlier that took this thing to a higher level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it's so much more we could do. We could dig into with this thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's deep.
And it's getting a little late,
It's deep.
you know. We definitely gonna have to come back and finish, take it to the next level with the OJ stuff because
Yeah,
I mean we kind of talked about some of the players, Johnny, we talked about the verdict, some of the reaction during the verdict, Mark Furman's role
yeah,
in the whole thing, we haven't really touched on Marshall Clark, Christopher Darden too
mm-hmm.
much. Barry Sheck, who was
Yeah,
huge.
huge man,
Huge, man. Sheck was huge in that.
huge.
Sheck still out there,
Yes,
knocking that DNA stuff down, man.
yes he is. Yes he is in a
So
big way.
Sheck, man. So I think we're gonna have to do a part two.
Yeah, I think so. It's a lot.
Part two on this thing, man, and because again, and so I don't even think I even brought this up or even made mention, so I felt the need to have a show on OJ Simpson when I found out he passed away the other day. You know, um, again, man, OJ, like I said, man, we talked about early. His rise to fame was so, at the time when he did it, he was clearly a pioneer.
Yeah.
In that area from the standpoint of a black man, becoming basically a superstar off the football field. I mean, we've had plenty of athletes who were superstars on the field, but it's just that transition to after your sport is what's that next thing.
Yeah.
And OJ was able to do that in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to do that in a big way, man. And so, we talk about what his legacy is now that he's passed away, and he passed away from cancer, which it kind of caught me off guard because it wasn't publicized at all. It wasn't made public at all, and this, and I think it probably was better that way, that it was kind of kept quiet the way that it was, and he was able to die, I mean, relatively peacefully. I don't know how much peace you can die when you're dying of a sickness, of illness that way.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to answer a whole bunch of questions. Didn't have to have cameras in his face. Being in media. I know that OJ was doing Cameron and Mason's podcast during football season.
Sure. Yeah.
So you will see him on there, I guess, like Monday mornings or Tuesdays, just kind of recapping the week in football. He was entertaining.
Yes.
I mean, he was always entertaining, man. So he was very comfortable doing it. You saw no signs of illness during those times. So like I said, I don't know really what the extent of his illness was or what he was feeling. And I'm not going to dig into that at all because I don't think it's fair to do that. But I felt because his story was so big, and we were here to see it. We were here to witness it firsthand. We saw, the from the reporting of his wife being murdered to, him being a suspect, the car chase, the whole trial of the century, that whole thing, man. It was just a made for TV event. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it. Just because the way things are covered now, you can never duplicate that. There have been big stories since that, of course, but I think stories are covered the way they are these days, a lot in part due to OJ, due to the coverage that the double murder got, the coverage because he was a celebrity, because he was a superstar. And like court TV was born basically through the OJ trial.
Absolutely.
Court TV was birthed basically through the coverage of that.
Yeah.
Reality TV basically, that was reality TV in its rarest form. You know what I'm saying? The OJ trial and all of that stuff, man. So a lot of what we see now was birthed because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because of that situation. And again, man, whether or not you feel like he was guilty or innocent, at this point, it is what it is. It'll
Yeah.
be a big debate. There always going to be people that felt like he got away with murder. There's always going to be people that felt like, he beat the system. It was one for us, you know. So you're gonna have people that have different opinions about this thing to the end of time, you know. But it was a time, that hey, we lived through it. We lived through it, man. We got to see it firsthand. And like I said, I know me and you have talked
Yeah.
ad nauseum about this thing over the years, and I know you more than anybody I know really dug into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got into it more so than anybody I ever talked to about it, and you base it off of
Off, off of the
hey,
trial.
the trial. I'm going in, and I need to see what this thing is about.
Yes.
And so I definitely thought of you when I said I got to do something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I know you was gonna have a perspective.
Yeah.
And you
Definitely.
got a perspective like unlike most, because most people I know did not do the research that you did.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So when people say things or when they kind of insinuate, man, you just talking. I said, nah, this brother actually did some homework.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? He actually did some research and followed this thing at a level most of us wouldn't have to, because we don't have time to be doing that.
Absolutely.
But so I know when I thought about doing the show on OJ Simpson, and I actually wanted to do a show about OJ last year,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the year before. But I know when I first doing the podcast, he was a subject I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
He was something I felt like, we could do a show, maybe a series of shows, really on that trial and the effect of it, and
Sure.
really the effect that trial still has on us today.
Absolutely.
So we're definitely gonna come back, and do a part 2 on
It's worthy.
OJ Simpson and the legacy, man, the legacy of, not just him the person, but just the OJ situation, the OJ trial, all of that.
Yes.
And in this, I'm not going to let it be lost that 2 lives were lost.
Mm-hmm.
And always respect and rest in peace to Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. To their families who are, still grieving.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Sure.
And it's just unfortunate that they had to grieve in public.
Yeah.
They had to grieve in front of the world. It's unfortunate that they had to grieve worldwide. And so it's probably different.
Yeah.
To grieve in front of the world and grieving is not an easy thing to do. And we all grieve differently. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. So I don't want to make it like it's about OJ and we the hell with them. No, I'm not doing that at all. Much respect, to the lives lost, but it became bigger than all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That this thing took on a life of its own, and it's just unfortunate that was the reason. That the lives were lost, and the case and like I say, the story just became one of the biggest things ever.
Yeah.
In the
Amazing.
history of media, man. I mean, it just is what it is. So, we'll wrap it up right now. For this part 1 of the OJ Simpson legacy. Before we close, man, I just want to give a shout out to one of our guys. Young man, we had the opportunity to coach in basketball, man. Young man is doing some extremely good things. Start his work as a coach. Played a little professional basketball, played some college basketball. Mr. Terry Nolan, and we've talked about him on the show before. I actually had him on the show last year, and he's definitely said he's gonna come back. So we'll get him back on here. But just want to give him a shout out. He got his first head coaching job at Rosedale Christian Academy. So I'm looking forward to seeing his growth as a coach. Terry's still a relatively young guy, man, 25 years old. So, he got a long way to go in this coaching thing. I just want to give him some props, man. I'm proud of him. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the program over there, and how he builds on his resume. Young dude, I always knew he would be a coach at some point. This thought it would have happened a little later. Down the road, didn't figure he would do it at this young of an age, but proud of him nonetheless to see that he's out here doing it, getting his career started, and he's also, got a family started. So, just want to give him some shout outs, man, some props, publicly congratulate him, and definitely we'll get him on the show, and we'll talk about his new career move as a head basketball coach, man. So, any closing words?
Yeah, I mean, I just want, I want to say congrats to Terry also. It's a long story on him coming in to play ball when he was 10 or 9 or 10 years old, and Coach Kenny and I had the squad, and he came onto the team, and he definitely changed the trajectory of the team with his talent. He was special. We knew he was special. And just to hear what he has done in his career, because with him becoming a coach, he played overseas. He's a very loving brother, loves his family, loves his children. He has a very good aura about him that impacts people that are around him. So he's a special guy, and because Coach Kenny and I can rail off numerous stories that's at the other spectrum of the kids that we done coached and been around. And so anytime we get someone like Terry Nolan Jr. and what he's done, we definitely want to put it out there. So definitely shout out to Terry.
Absolutely. So in closing, if you see I got my Sports Mix t-shirt on, if y'all want some of this Sports Mix merchandise, hit your boy up. I got t-shirts, hoodies, can kind of get the different colors if you need them. So hit me up. I can get you laced up with some of this gear, some of this Sports Mix gear. Got some things lined up, man. Just like getting back in this groove, with putting this show back together. So y'all stay tuned. Those that's been riding with me, man. I thank y'all. Appreciate y'all for riding with me. Follow the Sports Mix on all the socials. The Sports Mix podcast, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter. I'm the YouTube, of course. Just trying to grow the thing, man. Just trying to get it together, do it right. So I got some ideas, some show ideas I'm working on. Start getting some shows back together. Putting some live content back out, some more videos. Getting out to some live events as well. Some catching sporting events live, and just get just intermingle with the people, man. I was able to do a Sports Mix events during the football season where got together, watched the football game. It was pretty cool, man, just to have people around. A bunch of guys got together, a couple of females came out too, and we watched some football, talked some trash, man, had a good time. So that's kind of what we do, at the Sports Mix, just trying to grow this thing. I'm able to share my love of sport with the people. You know what I'm saying? This is something I've been doing all my life, man, just talking about sports. So I got a platform, I'm trying to grow it. Where it grows to, who knows? I'm not putting no caps on it. It's gonna get as big as it's gonna get, and I just thank everybody for the support. Thank everybody for riding with me. Everybody for just, giving me the encouragement when y'all see me out in public, on the streets or whatever, just encourage me to keep pushing and to keep growing this thing, man. So with that being said, man, we up out of here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hit me up, leave some comments, man. And I'll be seeing y'all around. We're gonna definitely do a part 2 of OJ, and then got some other stuff we're working on. The NBA, the playoffs is the great start. So I'll get the fellas together. We, do some NBA talk.
Mm-hmm.
The Orioles are back in motion. Got the newest of the kids is up in the big leagues now. Jackson Holiday. So I'm looking for big things. I think he's gonna be a superstar.
No question.
I think he's gonna be a superstar. It's just a matter of time before
written all over him.
Yeah, he's gonna be a superstar. So you got the baseball season jumping off. It'll be football season before we know it. The draft is coming up in like next week, right?
Coming up, yeah.
So the NFL draft is about to happen. The WNBA draft is about to happen.
Right.
Where locally, Angel Reese is going to get drafted.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark will get drafted. So the big names, man, it's going to be a lot to talk about, a lot to digest. I got a couple interviews that I'm working on that people that meant something to me. People that had some some shine locally, whatever, that I've been able to reach out to, and they've agreed to do it. It's just I gotta follow through. You know what I'm saying? I just gotta follow through and get them on here. So I just gotta do better. But I had a lot going on in the last few months, so I ain't gonna keep going. I'll be on here all night telling y'all what was going on. So again, thank everybody for tuning in. We get ready to get up out of here. Let me one more time on the way out. Let me one more time on the way out. Shout out to my guy Big Lou for putting together the theme music.
Yeah.
We're rocking with it. Shout out to Big Lou. So as we out of here, take a listen. We'll see y'all the next time.
Big Lou. Yeah. You in the mix, man. You in the mix. Sportsman. Yeah. You in the mix. Rockin' with Kenny. When it comes to news, man, he got plenty. You in the sports mix with Kenny. News and knowledge.